therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaoh? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots that conquered Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools, and our honored dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Or the simple answer after all? You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not have. You and I have a rendezvous with death. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step.
Recording in progress.
Here we go. Okay.
Yeah, we were planning on talking about like different of the backgrounds of our societies and like the different meanings of conservative and progressive, but stuff has happened since we talked last.
Yes,
you had a little. You backed out of Afghanistan, and it wasn't pretty. So, you know,
it was not.
Yeah, you are the American here. So, tell me about it.
A lot of thoughts when it comes to Afghanistan. It's obviously it's a very tricky situation. It's not a situation that I don't think anybody takes lightly, no matter what side of the aisle you fell on, even throughout all the years. I think 20 years ago, it was 2001, 9/11. I was a sophomore in high school when all this went down. And we went into Afghanistan after 9/11. And at that time,
I had a little baby boy that year. And now he is 20.
The world is a completely different place, yet we were still there. But it's not a different place over there. It's been the same place over there for thousands of years at this point.
Yeah, it's like, or since like the 40s at least, because the Kalashnikov is from the 40s. So.
Yes. Yeah, and I've even seen pictures of Kabul in the 70s, and it looked like Iran back before the Ayatollahs, where things looked Western almost, you know. And then the Islamic militants came in and just turned it into 6th century Islam. Yay. Did
I ever show you my Iran currency?
No.
I have a bill from Iran, 2000 whatever. And on one side, you have the stone of Kaaba. On the other side, you see a bunch of Taliban-looking people waving machine guns in the air and holding a picture of the Ayatollah.
It's like, I mean, it's basically like Muslim communism. In as far as the propaganda and stuff goes, you know, everything's AK-47s and the picture of their dear leader on the front. Well, real quick, the stone you mentioned, the stone of Kaaba, is that what it was called? Is that the stone in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, it's the black box. You know,
the black stone idol. There's a song by their name escapes me, even though they're one of my favorite bands right now. The Slave Eye. The Slave Eye, one of my favorite bands who the name escaped me because I'm on camera, and that's how that happens. So the thing is with Afghanistan is that we all knew we were going to leave. We all wanted to leave. We didn't want to be there. I don't think there's any American that wanted to stay there unless we're getting money out of it, which that's all the elites. But most normal people knew we couldn't stay there forever. That's not the problem. The problem here is that the way we left and the way right now, August 19th, what's going on still in Kabul is that there's around probably at this point 5,000 to 10,000 American citizens trapped in Kabul, and we're not doing anything to go get them. We're just telling them come to the airport, and they have to get through the Taliban's checkpoints and gunfire and everything else to get there. Meanwhile, the British and the French special forces are going out and rescuing their citizens in a hail of gunfire, and we're just sitting back, not doing a darn thing. And that infuriates me.
So what I heard, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I heard that you had like 2,400 soldiers. You pulled them out, and now you need 5,000 soldiers to ensure to get the people back.
Something like that. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's welcome to the crumbling American empire, because this is how we've operated at the top echelon of our power structure in America for many years. Absolute incompetence. And
we have to edit this. Yes, the cat pissed in the corner.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
I was gonna say she didn't sound very happy. Hi.
Yeah, we just got a new cat, and she's actually the mother of the other cat we have. I was kind of expecting, some like scent memory or something that there was a connection, but it's the Soviet USA 56. That's kind of it's tense in those cats. I don't mind you respecting, like your fallen soldiers because they gave their life and all that. But as a Swedish person, whenever I hear those, they gave their life for freedom, and I'm like, no, they didn't. They gave their life in vain, because in World War II, they gave their life for freedom.
Yes.
After that, I don't know,
You're right about that. Is that, I mean, it would be such a stretch of a logical argument to say that they were fighting for the last 20 years after we went in to try and get the Taliban and Osama and all that stuff. And after that, we weren't doing anything. At that point, what it honestly, in my humble opinion, should have became, if you're going to be there, then you do what nations did that transformed countries years ago. Call it colonialism. I don't care. I mean, if you're going to be there spending blood and money, then get something out of it. Now, there's no reason there's no reason at all to say that you have to stomp your foot on the head of the Afghanistan people. But then it's complicated because then they don't necessarily want you there either. Some do. Some, I mean, you can just tell they didn't want the Taliban to come in there. They're freaking out.
Yeah, I've seen the running people and the people falling from airplanes. So I don't guess they
might be different culturally, but they're still human. But you can't tell me that they all clamor to be hung and drawn and quartered in the streets because they said the wrong word, or their woman or their daughter forgot their burqa from head to toe, and that they all is like, oh yeah, kill us all. That's what we want. I don't believe that for a second. And that because on the
if you believe that, the running on the airport would change your mind. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that was the thing about Afghanistan, which I'll never forget that day. It almost felt the same way. It felt like I was living 20 years ago, and just seeing people of my generation, everything that they went over there for, it was like our current leaders just said, whatever, and then you try and call them out. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on at this point in time, when you're talking the military and things actually on the ground happening, I don't care if it's Joe Biden, I don't care if it's Donald Trump, Obama, Bush, doesn't matter. At that point, we all have to come together and say, you're the president, you're the commander in chief. That's what the Constitution says. You're in charge here. Something needs to happen, and it needs to be taken care of in the best way possible. So it wasn't I don't feel like it was very political, because it was more human. There's a human aspect of just what's going on. You guys were told this, apparently intel reports were showing this for weeks, months even. And they had no plan. And then when you ask them about a plan, they just say, well, it couldn't have been done any better. Well, that's like saying the science is settled. Don't ask any questions. Excuse me?
I think maybe it could have been handled a little better. The way I heard it is that they were supposed to leave like 3 months ago, and they postponed it, and then they didn't do anything but sit on their ass, and then they panicked out and left everyone and betrayed the human race.
Well, and because at that point you have invested time and money and human resources in the people who live in Afghanistan, the translators, those who worked with our military and our organizations and such the like. And you know that the Taliban, they've even said it and they're doing it, going in and finding anybody who was allied with the U.S. and they're killing them, killing their families.
So, if you spend, let's say, $100 million and you get nothing, or you spend $200 million and you finish, that's still cheaper than spending $100 million and not finishing. So,
yep. Yes,
that's how Afghanistan looks to me.
Yeah, you're right there, and that was getting back to my earlier point that you're there, you've put in time, money, blood, resources, and everything else. You're invested now, whether you like it or not. Yeah. You need to basically follow through with it. I mean, I don't know I don't have an answer necessarily. I think you could have done it in less than 20 years, obviously. But
yeah, so probably the right thing would be not to go there in the beginning.
Yeah, yes,
but
it would have been, and that
can't go back to that. That's too late.
No, and
that has been too late a long time.
And at the time, it was a situation where we had planes flown into buildings, and Osama bin Laden, who, by the way, had been talking about this stuff for years, and we even allied with him. And I mean, his family is very rich over in Saudi Arabia and worldwide power, all that stuff. He was kind of like the black sheep. But the Saudis are an interesting thing because, on the one hand, they love our technology and our weapons and our money, and they'll buddy with us to our face. And yet we know at the same time that they're also funding the people who would attack us back in the day and any interests that are against us. And yet we would still do it because why? The same reason with China now. The money is too good. We don't care what happens. Yeah. We're going to play both sides of it, and we're going to get paid on both sides. We don't care we know that they're funding our enemies on the other side, but we don't care because we're making bank. And that is the people who run America, the West, large multinational corporations. That's what it is now. It's always been that way, but it's so blatant and obvious now and they tell you don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, So, and it goes on. It was not just one side. For the last 50 years, you had people on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, both in America, playing the game. So I think that's why they hated Trump so much, is because I'm not saying he was perfect. There was things he did I didn't agree with. But my gosh, we didn't deal with this crap for 4 years when he was in there. We just didn't. This stuff didn't happen. So,
well, you don't agree with me and everything, and we are very chummy. So you don't have to agree on everything.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
I mean, that's he as the job of a leader of a nation, be that Sweden, Denmark, South Africa, America. If you're the leader of that nation, it only would make sense that your number one job is to take care of your nation first. That's
not a very racist thought to me. It's
it would only make sense. Not at the expense of everyone else, but when it comes down to it, your job is to represent your people and advocate for them amongst your neighboring nations and the world and stuff when it comes to that level.
Yeah. Let's say you have a football team and you're the coach of that team. you don't bother very much about the success of some competing team because they didn't hire you. Right. Like,
yeah, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what I've always thought of it.
You care about other people outside of your family, but if you come home and there's a new family there, you know, and they say, we live here now.
And that's not right, you know?
Yeah, but they, well, this is a house. Why can't this is my house? Because you didn't pay for it. That's
they
why.
would turn it around on you and say that you are being greedy by not giving it to us. They begin to take advantage of them because they know that they can. And all they have to do is say, well, you're being greedy if you don't let me use your stuff. Well, no. That's not right. That is backwards and upside down. That's the world we live in, where men are women, women are men. You can marry your dog now, I guess. And we're at war, but we're not at war. I had a whole list of examples of things like that welcome to 2021.
Freedom is slavery.
Yep. And that's,
whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason he wrote that in the style that he did and used those types of terms, because it's been there the whole time. You know, it's been there since the garden. Oh, did God really say? And he turns it around and uses the same words, but just causes doubt, you know, and it's been the same thing since the beginning.
So what I'm kind of confused of this Afghanistan situation. I've heard different things that makes me feel in different ways, you know. So one thing I've heard is that I mean, your beloved little president, a few weeks ago or months ago, he said, this can't happen. They will never take Kabul. They are the best equipped, whatever, 300,000 men, and we trained them and whatever. And then they took it in 9 days, right? So One thing I've heard was like an interview with a military guy. He was talking about how you built the system on the Afghani soldiers fighting the ground battles, and America like doing airstrikes and supplying their bases from the air and everything, and that you pulled everything out. And that's like you take the steering wheel from a car.
Yes.
And then you got the fancy car, man. It's a fast car.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what we did. We had set that up to where they were on the ground, and we provided air support and everything. And I've seen multiple news reports from a couple months ago, especially now that you start looking back through all these things, that we had basically stopped doing any type of maintenance to the to the Air Force that we had over there, that we had supplied to them. They were on their own. Well, I mean, I don't think that they have the equipment and the knowledge and stuff to upkeep an Air Force. That's why we were doing it to begin with, you know?
Yeah.
I
agree with Biden when he says we can't fight a war that they are not willing to fight themselves. I agree with him there. And also I agree with him where he says, like, well, we could stay there for 100 years and it wouldn't matter. Okay, fine. And of course, if you're going to do the airstrikes and you're going to do half of it, you have to be there for 100 years. But it wouldn't be impossible to hand that knowledge over. I mean, if you build a system on the combination of air support and ground forces, if you're going to leave, you have to, you know, hand over the torch, whatever, with also the air support.
What you said there, no one, I don't think, disagrees with you. But the problem is that, because he said that during his speech to America a couple of days ago when he first come out and addressed the nation. Didn't take any questions, but and he was talking about, we could have been there for a long. Nobody's arguing that. Nobody was arguing that point. The point we were arguing at the time was that you have so botched us leaving that was the problem. So what he did was he shifted and made everybody, hey, look over here, you know, and oh, it's not my fault and all this stuff. Nobody is saying it wouldn't have mattered what president was in at the time. If it would have happened to Trump, it would have been a disaster the way we pulled out.
Oh yeah. They talked about the Afghani soldiers being very fond of sexual abuse of boys, and that they told, and like the I don't know who they are here, but I assume it's the command is telling them not to interfere. So if you're not going to remedy that, what are you doing in Afghanistan, right?
Yes, and I remember seeing that story over the years, and it was always chalked up to. And I mean, it wasn't just then. Apparently, from what I've heard, and if I'm wrong, somebody put it in the comments. I don't know. I mean, we're not perfect here. We just go off of what we've read and heard like everyone else. But apparently that was always that was ingrained in their culture too, which
is weird because I have read the Quran, you know, and that is not okay, right? That much I can tell you. They are not happy with the sodomites.
No, well, and it's just like, so, like I said, I remember seeing that where they would tell our people on our side, don't get involved in that and just turn a blind eye to it. And I couldn't believe it when I read it. And I can't say that was all. I can't say that was because from what I saw and what I was reading, and there was a speech from a minister of parliament in the UK who served in Afghanistan, and he actually went after Joe Biden, like saying, this has been horrible. You have completely soiled the sacrifice of my brothers and all these things, because you're over there basically saying that the people that we worked with in Afghanistan who risked their lives to work with NATO and the West, and then you turn around and say that they all dropped their guns and left. And apparently that's not true. They were fighting, but when we pull out and pull the rug out from under them, and I don't know all the conditions on the ground, but apparently that was not the case, that all the Afghan soldiers just dropped their weapons and ran off. So then when he was saying that when Biden said they fled, I don't think that was, from what I'm seeing, that's not the truth. That's not the case. So,
like if I were an American soldier and if I were in Afghanistan for a bunch of years, I would probably, not have a very good sleep at night, but it wouldn't be over the people I killed. It would be over the people I didn't kill. The people I was not allowed to kill. The violators. That would eat me alive.
Well, and I think to wrap things up here, and you're talking of just, it's a hard thing. At the end of the day, Afghanistan it doesn't matter what nation that went in there. That's why they call it the graveyard of empires, because, people would go in there and they would all come out limping. And I don't understand it. Like you said, the number one thing we would have never had to do any of this is if we would have never went there to begin with. I understand why we did at the time. Don't understand why we stayed there for 20 years, though, doing what? What did we do for 20?
Yeah, you were letting people rape boys for 20 years.
The only other thing
democracy.
To pull in another thing we'll have to bring in on another episode. Back in 2011, Julian Assange had said that the reason that we're still in Afghanistan is the West and all these major corporations are laundering all their money through Afghanistan, and that's why we're there. And I've seen I'll have to find the news article from that the video where he said that, and that's probably why they keep trying to go after him, because he was exposing everything that was going on. and that it turned into this somewhat righteous act at first. And then eventually we're just all around twiddling our thumbs like, well, what are we going to do? I don't know. Let's do some illegal shit. How about that? Because why not? We can, and no one's going to stop us. So,
Yeah.
you know, they would see these Taliban or these whomever people over there, and they're like, hey, we need to do something about this now. And they called in, nope, can't do it. They're like, we need to do it. And they wouldn't let them. And then turn around, those people later on would come in and kill their buddies or go through entire towns. So, you know, falls back to, if you're going to fight a war, fight a war. That's actually the more humane thing to do, because you're sparing the lives of countless people in the future that those people would hurt.
Yeah.
You know, so that would be, if you're going to do it, you have to go in full force with 100% resolve, like Patton, like MacArthur, but we don't do that anymore, and we probably never will, unfortunately. We don't have a righteous resolve. We have a resolve for money, and that's it. So
yeah, I mean, to be there, to be a Western nation, to like, you've heard that you are there for the betterment of man or whatever, and your commanders go, let them rape those boys. It's not our problem. If that is not your problem, Afghanistan is not your problem.
Yep.
Right.
You're absolutely right. You can't allow that. I mean, what are you gonna? Well, it's not our call. No. See, and that's where we've gotten to society now. It's like this relativism where, you know, and it's actually only relativism when they want it to be relativism. Because if you're relativist about, and you have a different opinion on vaccines or measures for COVID and stuff, like, no, you need to be shut down. You almost need to be thrown in jail, kind of like Australia now. But if it's, you know, people in the Middle East and 680 cultures raping little boys, well, we need to let that go. We just need to turn a blind eye. Bull crap.
You're a racist homophobe for that.
Yeah,
right.
You can't have it both ways there. So, but I think with that, that wraps up our episode for today.
Yeah, probably a lot of editing in this one, because it got, you know, I thought we would be like better, you know, like it would just no cutting, you know.
I think it went better today. I don't think there's going to be near as much cutting. Well, guys, thanks for joining us on the second episode of Patriot X Freedom Radio. And we
didn't even get to Taiwan.
We didn't even get to Taiwan yet. That'll probably be on the next episode that we talk about things. Who knows what's going to happen at this point? The world is spiraling out of control at a very fast pace. And we're here to talk about it because we're sure that you guys care what we think. So I'm Pathos. That is Karl over there. Karl, say hi real quick.
Hello.
Hello. That's Karl. And this is Patriot X Freedom Radio. And thank you guys for listening. Feels good for us to be able to do this and have someone else to listen, because I think we would love to stand in the Areopagus like Paul and talk about ideas like, you know, back in the day. So until
back
next
in the
time,
day.
Back in the day. Till next time, this is Pathos and Karl, Freedom Radio. Check you guys later. God bless you guys. We love you. Bye.
And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaoh? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriot that conquered Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools, and our honored dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not have dared. You and I have a rendezvous with death. We'll